Excerpts from the Book of Zeal. The Terrans. The Terrans were the first to move away. They understood the monumental scope of their job. The entire world was theirs to shape. They stood and looked at the flat expanse that lay all around them. For a time, no one spoke. Then, with dismay in its voice, one called Urias broke the silence.
Look at all this. What are we supposed to do with it?
No one else said anything, but the others thought the same. Suddenly, one of them moved forward. It was a giant, even for the Terrans. It picked a spot and placed its hands on the ground.
The large Terran concentrated, harmonizing its energy with that of the land. The land shook, buckled, and changed. The ground contorted and grew upward, creating a great structure. With features large and sharp, the great megalith stood, dark and foreboding. The Terrans looked at it in awe.
What is that, Crag?
Several of them asked the giant.
Craig stood back and considered the question.
I think it should be called a mountain.
The others looked at it and nodded. Some tried their hands at it and made smaller mountains that stood next to it. They chained many of the mountains together in a range that extended a great distance along the land. The Terrans' new creation excited them. They indulged in their desires to make more. The Terrans moved around the planet, producing more mountains. Some came up with other ideas and formations of their own. A thin Terran named Fjord took great delight in cutting the landscape. It carved long, winding pathways through the land to make great crevasses. Urias, who had once been unsure, was now happily moving about its work. It made structures much like those of crags, but smaller and more rounded. It called them hills. The Terrans diligently went about their work. They toiled until they had contoured and shaped the once completely flat land. The Terrans were pleased with their accomplishment, but they felt the world needed something else. For the moment, they would rest and wait. Some turned their heads up and bore witness to the changes being made above them. The Gales. The Gales made their move shortly after the Terrans. They took to the area above the ground and flew about, examining their canvas. For a while, they did nothing but survey the area. Then one among them spoke out.
I'm not pleased with the look of this,
A shrill voice proclaimed.
What do you mean, Lufia?
The other Gales asked.
Something about this space, it seems dull to me.
The Gales looked around at the bleak grey expanse and nodded in agreement.
Well, what would you do with it?
Asked a quick Vesper named Eris.
With
a wave of her hand, Lufia changed a portion of the area. The dull grey disappeared, replaced by a bright blue. The faces of the Gales lit up.
Very nice,
they proclaimed.
What is it?
One asked.
Now, it is incomplete, but we can spread it around everywhere up here. It will be the sky,
Lufia said, very matter-of-factly.
The sky,
they repeated. They followed Lufia's lead and created its vision.
Hey, I've got an idea!
Eris shouted. It breathed a thin vapor of energy. The vapor filled the area immediately around them. The other Vespers were unsure of what to make of this new creation, but they liked the way it felt as it moved around. Eris ceased its action.
Do you like it? I call it air. It's something we could use to fill this void.
Air? It's nice.
A Vesper nearby said. The others agreed. As they had with Lufia's idea, they all worked together to implement Eris's contribution. Now a layer of air blanketed the entire planet. When the task was complete and all had regathered, Lufia addressed the group once more.
I like this air, but does anyone else think it was better when Aris was first blowing it out? The feel of it was different then,
Lufia said.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Eris stated as it fluttered about.
Its movements caused a disturbance in the air. A gale called Score noticed that this disturbance resembled what was missing. It observed the same phenomenon as the other gales moved about.
Look,
Score called, gathering the attention of its fellow gales. Score put its hands forward. They radiated power. Score's action disturbed the air like the gale's earlier movements. Instead of stopping, the motion continued even after Score ceased its action.
Yes, that is what was missing.
Lufia pointed out.
Oh,
Eris chimed in, smiling.
but what is it?
it is like us, quick and fleeting. I want to call it wind.
Score answered.
The other Vespers nodded in approval. They, in turn, added their own touches to the new creations. Some manipulated the wind. They made it spin around, making funnels that travelled along the land. They made it strong in some places and lighter in others.
Score made it so the wind's strength fluctuated. It also varied the wind's presence around the world. That way, the wind could not affect any one area too much and others not enough. Other gales adjusted the air distribution. They made its concentration heavier near the ground so that those who were on the land could enjoy it more. When the gales felt they had completed their work, they landed on the ground and looked up at their creation. Every gale beamed with satisfaction. Some of them took their eyes off the sky long enough to notice the changes the Terrans had made to the terrain.
Impressive.
Score noted, calling the attention of the other gales to the newly contoured land. They looked around in amazement at the accomplishments of the Terrans. The gales took to the air once more to search for their fellow Vespers. They landed where they saw the Terrans congregated.
I see you've done much with your time.
Eris greeted them. The Terrans turned to welcome the gales.
What have you decided to call all this?
The structures have many names, but as a whole, we call it the Earth.
Urias informed them. The gales looked around and repeated the name to themselves.
You gales have also been busy. What is this feeling around us? Is it your doing?
Yes, Slate, that is the air you feel. It is moved around by the wind.
Lufia answered.
The wind, huh? I like it. Much has changed up there.
Slate approved.
Yes, it shall now be known as the sky.
Lufia added. The Terrans looked up into the blue expanse and nodded.
We are pleased with what we have done.
Crag started. The Terrans had elected him as the group leader, mostly because he provided the initial idea.
But we can't help feeling that something is missing.
He finished.
I know what you mean.
Score said, looking up into the sky.
Maybe we can be of some help.
A new voice chimed in. The Vespers turned to find a new group approaching. It was the Aquas. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe for more tales from Zeal. Also, look out for Birth of the Forever King, the first novel from the world of Zeal. It's coming soon.